Pumped to have him, a good friend of all of us here. And how's Kratzy on a daily basis now hosting the show, Burnes? You just got like a nice 2-minute, ESPN hot take style rant from your boy.
Yeah, I got a piece of it. It's good to see Kratzy on this side of the game. I got the pleasure of playing with Kratz. For I think it was about a half a season. He caught my debut and got me established in the big leagues. But it's good to hear him on this side of the mic.
Well, Corbin, trust me, he's let us know 5 times already today that he caught your debut. I mean, 2, 3, 5, whatever. My claim to fame. My claim to fame. He's my friend.
I taught him everything.
Burnes is my friend. How did he do? Did he clank any? That's what I want to know. Did he throw any cutters and did Kratzy clank any?
Well, I wasn't throwing the cutter then, so that was just the 4-seam and the slider, and the first 4-seam went to the backstop. I don't know if he got a glove on that one, but I remember after that one, he's like, "Hey, you got a little bit of adrenaline on that one?" I said, "Yeah, I was trying to throw 100." He's like, "Well, you probably don't need to throw 100. Your stuff is good enough, regardless." So, but other than that, yeah, we got our first punch. We got a 2-inning save, so it was good.
It was a big spot too. It was a big spot in our season. It was, I'm going to say, July, did we go Miami to Pittsburgh? Is that when did you go to Pittsburgh and then we went to the All-Star break?
Yep. Yeah, we were Miami, Pittsburgh, and that was, we were in a stretch there of, probably 16 or 17 games in a row. So we were a little thin in the bullpen. And I was just talking to Counts about it the other day of like, it's like, "Hey, Counts, do you remember my debut?" He's like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "We had Hader down, we had JJ down, and I told you were pitching that day regardless." He goes, "I didn't think it was going to be a 2-run ball game in the 8th, but hey, you did all right."
Yeah, you did great. I mean, AJ can attest to this. You go out and you look at a rookie's eyes when he's in the game. This is the 8th inning, and it was a 1-run game, if I remember, or maybe a 2-run game, but I'm not 100%. And I remember asking him a question, because I'm trying to learn the guy. I wasn't in spring training. They have, DJ, Derek Johnson, was our pitching coach, and he told me what I needed to know about Burnesy, and I knew all I needed to know when I came out just to ask him, like, "Hey, what do you want to go here?" And he didn't say, "Yeah, I want to throw a slider. Yeah, I want to throw a fastball." He looks at me, he's like, "Yeah, whatever you want to go with, it's cool." And he wore glasses at the time, and there was one bead of sweat running down the lens of his glasses because he sweats like, well, I won't say what he sweats like, but he sweats like crazy. And there was one bead of sweat coming down his glasses, and I was like, "Dude, this guy is locked in."
It was probably because of the 50 pitches I had thrown in the bullpen because I didn't know to slow down because I was still trying to figure out how to be a reliever, and Lee Tunnel out there is like, "Hey, you're good. You're probably good." So, I need a few more.
Kratzy, you could take the whole 20 minutes here. Actually, we should do that one day for one of our Corbin Burnes call-ins. Just get Kratzy and Burnes just reminiscing. I love it. It's good stuff. Hey, Corbin, let me ask you about the WBC. So, A, are you into it? Like, will you be watching? And B, we were just talking about the pitching, not just for Team USA, but just pitching in general, because it's loaded with position players to the tournament. My thing is, it's a little bit of a tough spot. So you have your teammate, Freddie Peralta, for example, who wanted to pitch, and we're talking to him next week. I get it. Someone coming off an injury in the previous season, that makes sense. Then I have this argument, okay? You either have like the pitchers that are still under team control, trying to cash out, make their big money, and also take care of themselves. That's what the teams want, right? They want to take care of their guys, and it makes sense for the individual. Then you have the senior members like the Scherzers and Verlanders of the world who are getting paid $40+ million by their team. And they're like, "You know what? At 38, why don't you just start your season on April 1? Why do you think it's so tough for all these premier pitchers to get to the WBC? Am I onto something?"
Yeah, so I think, the big thing for me when I was asked to do it, I was asked mid-season last year and basically say, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see how the year finished up. Let's see how the body's feeling. And so for me, it was about, hey, I want to make sure that I'm healthy opening day. I want to make sure that I'm full go opening day, that there's nothing that's going to hold me back. And, really just to try to get out there and throw that intensity this early in the season with, me still trying to, like you said, get to that free agency, do it, get a long-term deal, whatever it may be. it just felt smarter to stay in camp, continue my slow build up, to be ready to get opening day. You see, I think Adam Wainwright's slated to throw game one, which I will be watching all those games on. But he's a guy, gosh, he's been in the league for as long as I can remember. And he's going to go out there and he's going to, like you say, like Kratz said, he's going to go out and compete, and he's going to go out and throw up zeros and give that team a good chance to win. So it's just about where guys are at in their career and what they feel like they're going to be ready for that early on. Having high intensity playoff atmosphere games, March 9th or 10th it's going to be really early.
Burnesy, would you play next time? Say you get a contract, would you play in the next one if they asked you? If you were healthy, everything was healthy, you were good to go. Nate, what is it? 2027, I believe, is the next one.
Yeah, scheduled? That sounds right. Yep.
Would you, if whoever is in charge of Team USA said, "Hey, can we get a commitment from you? Is it something you want to play in?"
Yeah, no, it's something that I'll definitely be interested the next time it comes around. I think that's something that would be cool to kind of check off the list of playing in the WBC. And we have a guy, Christian Yelich, who's played in it in 2017, was a part of that team that won it, and he said, there's no atmosphere like it. It's a playoff atmosphere early in the year, and he was actually talking about he kind of had this huge letdown of going and winning the WBC in mid-March, then going back to Jupiter, Florida with the Marlins and starting the season in Miami, where now they're getting 10,000 a game versus the 50,000 they were getting. So it's kind of like, hey, kind of a little bit of a culture shock almost of hey, I was getting 50,000 people in March, and now we're in April, and on a Monday night game we got 8,000 people. So definitely a little bit different feeling. But yeah, that's something I would definitely like to do at some point in my career.
Yeah, the Miami games last year, like USA, I always bring it up. USA Dominican Republic, calling that game might have been the best game I've ever been a part of on the broadcast side. Like the atmosphere was nuts, and I've been to many of those empty Miami games, living there, like looking around, like this is a new place, new house, looks great, but no one's in it. So yeah, the WBC is sick for that. Okay, so Corbin, I want to get to yesterday and the start and everything else. We're gonna have you on throughout the season, so we've got to do this in spring training right now because we haven't spoken to you yet, and we got players on this show. Just want to know from your perspective how things have gone since the arbitration case. I know you had some words about it, and we've been talking about too, like how the dynamic is with players, but what your thoughts were from that situation, because it was such a small amount of money that was being battled on, and many players since, like in a good way, have been outspoken about the fact that the system is just weird and wrong. So what were your thoughts on how that all went down?
Yeah, look, first off, it's the process that we go through. Once you get to the 3 minimum years, you get into arbitration. I don't think anyone likes it, and it's part of the process that we have to go to. And as a player, we've earned the right to try to go and argue what we think we deserve. And obviously, what transpired with me, it was not something that was kind of ideal. And I had spoken to Hader a lot about it prior going into it, and he was a guy that went through it the previous year. And Adrian Hauser did as well, so I got to talk to him about it. So just one of those things, you kind of know what to expect going into it, knowing that the team's going to do whatever they can to try to win their case and do what they can to make you look bad. And that's obviously that's what happened. But I've had meetings now with a lot of the guys in the clubhouse and with Counts and the coaching staff. Like, look, I'm going to go out there. I'm still going to do my job. My job is to go out there every 5 days, give out the best effort I can, try to give the team a chance to win. That's not going to change. So that's something I tried to reiterate to all those guys is, look, I understand what happened. Everything became very public about it because of some of the stuff that was said, and just that's how the process goes. And my goal was not to trash the Brewers and trash anyone that was involved with the arbitration process, but more bring a light to what happened, and that this is a process that as big league players we go through, and not everything is as good and as happy as it sounds. But then on the backside of it, knowing that my players and teammates know that I've got their guys' back, they got my back. Every 5 days, I'm gonna go out there and give everything I got, and hopefully we can go win a World Series this year.
Corbin, I went to arbitration also when I was with the Giants. It's for people that don't know, and I don't know, Scott, if you've ever really sat through the process, or even Kratzy, because
they don't let us in the room.
So you go into this room, and it's just this long conference room, and there's a table in the middle, and there's a tee at the end, and there's 3 arbitrators sitting at the one end, and you sit down, and you're sitting across from the general manager. He's this table, he's right there, and and they tell you, like the Players Association, I'm sure they told you the same thing, Corbin, like just don't react to whatever they say. And you're sitting there like this, and you go first and you give your case and you say, well, I'm worth $10.5 million.
Do you say it yourself?
I talked in mine. I don't know if Corbin talked in his, but I actually did talk in mine. And so I'm sitting there, and the GM is across the table, and you're sitting there, and your lawyer goes and he talks for 30 minutes. And then they take a 2-minute break, and then they talk for 30 minutes or whatever the time. I forget the time. And then you get rebuttals. And so you talk again, they talk, and they say stuff, and I'm sure Corbin will tell you, and you're just want to like jump across the table and grab the GM because you're like, first of all, that is bull crap. Like, that's not right. And you can't do anything. So you're just sitting there and just like, it's like eating at you. And then you get out and nobody says a word. Nobody says anything to anybody. You just leave. You're like, okay, good luck.
See you at spring training.
See you at spring training the next day. And then you get a phone call and they say you won or lost, and they don't give you a reason why, right? It's like the worst thing for a player to sit through. But I tell players, and I think, Corbin, now that you've been through it, if you really want to know what the teams think about you, sit in that room and they will tell you, and they'll make shit up, excuse my language. Then you're like, that is not true. So please, if your experience was different, Corbin, tell me.
No, that's basically it. Now, so a couple guys I've talked to, the team doesn't really send their GM or president of baseball ops. Those guys don't go anymore. It's a lawyer they hire, someone else in the front office who doesn't say anything. So basically, it's all said by the lawyers. That, they've given them their case to say, and for them, they think it feels it's not as bad. I think because it's a lawyer saying it, not necessarily the GM saying it. So they kind of present their case, and again, you're sitting right across from each other. They're saying stuff. They're trying not to look at you, and you're just sitting there, just staring a hole through them. Like, are you serious? Like I said, and then each side talks. You have the rebuttal. I didn't say anything. The PA, I think now they don't really want guys saying anything or doing anything, so we just kind of sit there and just have to wear it. A lot of guys, a lot of young guys are like, well, how come you got to go to it? And it's one of those things like. It's kind of like the mandatory optional for those guys that went to college of, hey, you don't have to go, but you probably should go kind of thing. So it's like it's one of those things that's basically it's mandatory. You sit there, you listen, you take it. At the end of the day, like you say, everyone gets up and walks out, and they kind of give a smile on the way out, and they're kind of like, hey, what's up? And you just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go back to my room and get out of here. And then the next day you get a phone call I got it from the PA and said, hey, sorry, we lost. And that was kind of it, and said, good luck this year. So it's definitely a strange process, and something that I think probably should be changed, since the team just goes in there and just absolutely just tears apart all their players, saying a lot of stuff that isn't true, or crunching data the way they want to, and kind of leaving out all the good parts. But it's kind of a weird process, and I don't think many guys like to go through it, but sometimes you have to.
My question is, because I've never been through this, I didn't need to make it to arbitration, thank goodness, because they would have had plenty of ammo. But my thing is, I want to know, what is the worst thing that they said to you, but also what's the like most pointless thing they said? Like come on, bro. Like, why did you put that in there? Like, seriously, like, you caught me picking my nose, one time. Like, I want to know from both of those what it was.
Yeah, mine was it's what I came public with, was the worst, and one that was kind of hard to understand, and we actually had a rebuttal to it, was I was the reason why we missed the postseason. So they kind of they pull everything up of, in the first half we were such and such record, you were such, and you had this, all your numbers. In the second half, they say that your numbers weren't very good. And they put together, basically they eliminate the month of September where I had, good numbers again. They put like a 3 or 4 stretch stretch in August of where I had like a 5 ERA. And they go, look, the team was starting to tank at this time, and that's the reason why they tanked the rest of the year. But they leave out that, had a good month of September. I was, 4 or 5 games over 500 in those starts I made, yet the team was 500. So they just completely skew the data to what they see, and hopefully that's what these arbiters hear, and that's what obviously they heard. And then that for me, that was also kind of the thing that kind of came out of left field for us as well, was like, the team will do whatever they can to try and make it look as if you aren't valuable to the team. help the team or hurt the team in any way. And so they will make the numbers whatever they could. They made up stats. They do everything they can as something that, this is a stat that we really view heavily as a player, and you guys should as well. And it'll be stats that they made up. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a court case. That's the thing, which is so strange because like MLB will say, hey, we need better athletes, better overall players. Like Kyle Tucker lost his case, $2.5 million difference. And I read all about it this morning. They just kept saying, well, he doesn't hit enough homers. And they're like, okay, cool. Don't you want all around players? Like just absolute garbage. So Corbin, right? I mean, like that's
Corbin, you're through it now. And now you just look at him and say, screw you, we'll go again next year. Like, let's do it again next year, because you've already been through it. So it's important for the players, though. I know it sucks, but it's important because it's the first chance you have as a player to really fight for your, not freedom, but the money you deserve. Like this is your chance, your first chance to sit down and say, I'm worth this, especially if you don't have a long-term deal. So good for you for going, Corbin. I'm sorry you didn't win, but good for you for going, and I'm proud of you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the process, and I think AJ, you said it best. Is you find out what your true value is and what the team really thinks about you, and I think that's more valuable than any money that you can really get out of it.
Nice motivation too. Like if you didn't need it already, right?
Man.
Like
creates
another chip, which never hurts. It's like bulletin board material for yourself. So
go ahead.
I was going to say, so I wanted to get that in there. Obviously, we're not going to talk about that during the season. What I do want to talk about probably almost every time we have you on is the cutter in general, because I'm watching your post-game comments on your start. And so the two things from your Tuesday outing is, and I don't care about the results, it's the execution in spring training. One, how did you like the pitch clock maneuvering and seeing what other guys are doing with it? Like a Scherzer saw some pauses and everything else to try and mess with hitters. And then I just loved the quote post-game with the reporters. You're like, I'm throwing the crap out of the cutter all spring so that I'm feeling it from start one of the regular season.
Yeah. So I think the kind of the first thing on everyone's mind is the pitch clock. I think everyone is still trying to get accustomed to it. Every team, every guy is trying to find ways to use it to their advantage. It's one of those things that I think as we get going more into camp here, as the season gets going, you're going to start seeing players and teams that can really take advantage of it. Scherzer's really pushing the limits as we're seeing, and I think it's good for all of us. We're all getting to learn, the ins and outs of the rules, where you can, capitalize on it. So I think the biggest thing is, Pierzynski and Kratz, you guys are hitters. It's all about trying to get comfortable in the box, and so as a pitcher, we're trying to make you guys uncomfortable. So if we can use that clock in any way to make you guys uncomfortable, burn timeouts, quick pitch, whatever it may be, that's just something that we can gain as a little bit of an advantage. And then, back to the cutter. Last year it took till really June to have for me, have a good base of where I wanted that cutter to be. So I've told Caratini, I told Contreras, like, look, for me, it's going to be, let's see how many cutters we can throw in an outing. I don't care what happens. I don't care if we throw 4 or 5 in a row. I don't care if they're hitting it. For me, it's about getting the feel for it to be able to throw wherever I want in the zone. And yesterday it was a lot better. Early on in live VPs and sim games, the first game, the cutter wasn't where it wanted it to be. Yesterday, it's better, so it was, it's trending in the right direction. But for the rest of camp, it's going to be just throwing a ton of cutters and mixing some other stuff in. But for me, I can get just as good as work on the the spin, the curveball, the slider, that kind of stuff, and catch play and bullpen sessions. But for me, the cutter is something that I need that the reads off of guys' swings to know we're getting the right action to it. And then as soon as we start pairing with the other stuff, we know we'll get the ugly swings back.
I love it. You said catch play, by the way, which is funny because most people say play catch. And when I was in the minor leagues with the Twins, they're like, it's not a joke. You're not playing catch. It's called catch play. And so you don't hear a lot of people say that. So that's interesting that you said that. So Corbin, who taught you? I have a ball in my hand. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to get out a Scotty shot. But
move over. There you go.
First of all, who taught you the cutter? And can you show me how you hold it?
Yes.
Can you talk me through it on the ball?
Yeah. So the cutter was something that I kind of thought of on my own. When I was working in the off season of 19 going into 20, I knew the four seam was just not going to be the pitch that I could rely on, and I knew I could spin the ball well with the slider and the curveball already. So for me, it was like the most logical thing to do was throw a cutter. I already had a little bit of natural cut to it that I always tried to straighten out into a four seam. So for me, it was more about letting that natural cut just kind of take over. And then, my cutter grip is just it almost looks like a traditional four seam fastball with the horseshoe facing the other direction.
So the horseshoe facing that
Yep.
way.
Yep. And then just a slight quarter turn to bring that middle finger onto that seam. Yeah.
This seam
Yep,
here?
right over there. Yeah. So
it'd be
that's
like
it.
that?
It's just a little bit of a slight turn on the baseball that puts both the fingertips of that index finger and the middle finger on the seam, and then just let it rip and just let the kind of the natural cut and a little bit of angling of the baseball get that cut action to it.
Kind of like it would be. So it'd be like you throw it like a fastball, right?
Yep. And my hand kind of works on the side of the baseball like that. I'm not good at, you see Freddie and Woody on our staff that are really good at that four-seam fastball, getting behind it, straight hand coming through, and I just can't do that. My hand has a little bit of a slight, turn coming to it through the the pitching motion, and just spins the ball in the right way that we want to, and just kind of uses the natural cut and a little bit of the seams and the spin to get that cut to it.
It's interesting because Mariano showed me how he threw his, and he threw it with the horseshoe the other way. So, like you were saying, the horseshoe for you is out, right?
Yep.
Or this way, and you wanted to get it like that. Whereas Mariano wanted the horseshoe where his fingers were this way, and he would just turn it, and so his middle finger was on that seam, and he would rip it down. So it's interesting that two people with great cutters throw it different ways.
Yeah. It's all about, for me, it's finding the seams on the pads, the ends of the fingers on the pads of your finger. So for me, my curveball, my slider, my cutter, all the seams come across that pad of the finger at the end of your fingertip. So for me, it was finding a way that I can turn the baseball to get the same feeling on the seam. So I'm not trying to do something crazy and manipulate the ball in a certain way.
You were talking about, did you have the pitch comm on your glove yesterday when you were throwing? And have you wanted to call your own pitches ever since your debut when your catcher didn't know what he wanted to throw? Is that where this all comes from? Because if it is, I'm totally good with it. Twitter has beaten me down, and the minor leagues have beaten me down, and occasionally AJ beats me down. So
No.
fine. It's fine.
No,
talk about the pitch comm.
Yeah, so the pitch comm I was one of the first guys on our squad to use it with the little piece in the hat, right, of the catcher, the voice, calling cutter down and away. So I was one of the first guys to kind of do that. And when I came into camp this year, Counts kind of brought it up of like, hey, there's Greinke's been a big guy for calling his own pitches. Scherzer's going to call his own pitches. Is that something you'd want to do? At first, I was kind of like, nah. Like I kind of like the catcher's calling it. I got a good routine, got a good rhythm going. I don't need to call my own pitches. And just kind of the more you start looking at the pitch clock, and with no one on base, 15 seconds, you shake twice, you're going to get a pitch clock violation. So for me, it was like, man, hey, how can we avoid that? There was ideas of, hey, if you shake twice, it's always just going to be a cutter. And I was like, well, what happens when you're in an 0-2 count? You've already thrown two cutters, and now you're throwing a cutter again. Like it's probably not ideal. So you can't just have a default pitch that you go to because you're going to get in trouble. So that idea was kind of scrapped. And so basically that's when I kind of circled back to this pitch comm on the glove, which I don't think Jason Schauger was really happy with. He was our equipment guy, because he's having to doctor up all my gloves and take off logos and glue them on other places so that we don't get in trouble. But it's just, for me, I don't call them all the time. William yesterday still called 80-85% of the pitches. It's more about if instead of shaking with no one on base, you just go right to it and click the button you want. And then every pitcher knows you get strike one, you get strike two, you've got that feeling right away of your punch out pitch. So I just click it in and go. Or you got to punch out and you're throwing the ball around, and as the ball's being thrown around, you click in your first pitch because hey, I'm starting guys right-handers away. I want to start with the first pitch sinker in or something. So that's something that it may take a shake or two shakes to get to with the catcher. So you just call it in right away. So it's not something that I'm going to use every single pitch. If for me, I still want to get in that good rhythm, that good timing of the catcher going in and knowing that we're on the same same wavelength. And obviously, I think catchers can see swings and read swings better than anyone. They're right there. They can hear.
What happened? Did you get a call?
There we go. So we can. I think catchers more than anyone can read swings and know, like, when a guy swings their pitch, like, oh, you can hear him, like, well, what was that? That's something that we don't know as pitchers. There's a lot. We can see a lot of things, but a lot of things catchers see that we don't see. So I think that's still good to have ability for the catchers to call the majority of the game, and for us to kind of chime in when needed.
I love it. And you're going to be 100% on the pitch that you throw. But what I'm 100% about is you saying Schwager, like, look, tell Schwager that there is no, like, if you want him to paint your glove red, he needs to do that, okay? That is his job, and you tell him that I said that, okay?
I will.
He's the biggest. He knows what he's doing, and he's one of the best in the game at it. So you make sure, don't let him give you any hard time.
Oh yeah, well, I'll make sure Kratzy said, hey, whenever I need this glove doctor, you got to do it.
Corbin, 2 more quick things for you. One, Cain he didn't officially announce it, but he was talking to a writer who basically said, I'm retired. So message for Cain on his retirement, someone I know had a great relationship with. I mean, who doesn't? He's like one of the nicest dudes on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, Cain was awesome in that clubhouse. I still remember the day that we got both Yelly and Cain on the same day, and it kind of put this organization on a track that it hadn't really been on in a long time, as far as going to have some veteran talent, some good guys in the clubhouse, and turned us into a winning culture. So Cain was a big part of that. He had some great years in Kansas City, and when he came to Milwaukee, he always told us that, hey, Kansas City got my good years. And so that was one of we still got plenty of good years from Cain, but that was one of the things he always said, is that Kansas City got his good years. So I love Cain. Still love seeing him. He'll still come out and do all the fantasy football stuff, and so we get to see him a little bit. And gonna miss seeing him around the game, seeing him in the clubhouse, seeing all his crazy kids running through the clubhouse. Congratulations to him on a great career, and hope he enjoys retirement, enjoys his kids.
Yeah, and he's a great personality. That's a great Cain line. So at some point, definitely got to get Cain involved here. Okay, and lastly, and we can get into this on a longer topic another day, but just many have asked about this, the mental component of the game. I know what stood out to me is, and we've talked about this in other interviews in the past, sports psychologists with teams. And I know that was a big thing for you, helped you a ton. So wanted to get your thoughts on how helpful that is within the game, especially for baseball players when they deal with so much failure. And then after the game, everyone's jumping to their phones. There's so much going on. And are you still utilizing that?
Yeah. So I still have weekly phone calls with Brian, and still always trying to try to get another edge up in the mental side of it. Coming off of 2019, obviously there was no secret that was a tough year for me, and not only on the baseball field but off the field. It was one of those things that I was taking baseball home to my family and my wife, and it made all relationships strained. So for me, it was learning how to separate the game and life, and I think that was probably the biggest thing that I can take away from it. That was the biggest positive. But then I learned a lot of things as far as routines and breathing and how to break down starts and outings, and I think that's something that a lot of guys shy away from still in the game. No one wants to go see the strength, but those guys can do a lot of good and not necessarily breaking down how you think and the typical therapy side a lot of guys think of. For me, I think of it more as a mental performance coach versus a psychologist or team psychology, whatever it may be. For me, it's the mental performance coach, and from that I've learned how to really structure my days around baseball, structure my day of work done at the field, so that when I get on the mound, it's going out and having fun. That's something I got away from in 2019. It was baseball was not fun. When you're giving up homers at the rate I was giving that, baseball no longer becomes fun. So when I was able to kind of get things figured out and learn how to deal with adversity, baseball became fun, and we ended up coming out of it all right.
Yeah, everything's going well. You throw the crap out of that cutter all spring training long. We'll talk again soon. And how did Kratzy do? This first time you're having him on a live daily show. Is the new broadcaster of the year here in baseball.
Yeah, I think so far. We'll be an A+ there, Kratzy.
Yeah, let's go.
That means a lot, Burnesy. That means a lot.
I'm not sure what hat you got going. The hat, I don't know, is the hat green? I can't tell.
The hat's green. Yeah, it's green. Fisher cats.
Okay, all right.
It's a new thing on Twitter, Kratz hats. He wears a different hat every day for the 2,686 teams that he played for. He's even got beer league softball. He's got international. He's got it all. So
I did find some Little League hats last night. So if you have a Little League hat, Burnesy, don't be afraid to rock it sometime. It could be on Kratz hats. I'm just saying.
I'll have to find some old ones.
Hey, Corbin, this was awesome. We're excited to have you on throughout the season. Enjoy the rest of spring training. We'll talk to you again very soon. And thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you guys. Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to the next one.